morning and welcome to the Point. It is Friday, September 10th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9 and the folks joining us on Party Grenada and Go to FET Facebook pages. Always a pleasure to have you. Joining me virtually this morning is the president of the Bus Association, the Grenada Bus Association, Mr. Garth Woodroffe. Good morning, Garth, and welcome to the program. Appreciate your attendance this morning.
Good morning, Blossom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you. Let's get right into the discussion. No sticking this morning. The Bus Association. Lots happening with the association, not just recently with the call for the suspension of services, but over the past year and a half, really. We've been seeing more issues coming from the association and the bus drivers and owners that you represent. But the latest being the suspension of services, calling for the suspension of services. Tell us more about it. What really spurred that action by the association to call on its members to suspend its services for 1 week in the first instance?
Safety, right? It's all about safety. It is definitely not any sort of industrial or strike action or anything like that. It is really just about safety and mitigating the spread of COVID. We have had quite a few members of our association that was coming down with COVID-19, right? And and it's through that process, we had learned how exposed, right, our drivers and the public are exposed, right? And even, the traveling public and other persons who encounter persons who use public transportation. So your families at home and so on. So we realized that we are contributing to the further spread of COVID, and our drivers and conductors and their families were also at risk of catching. Sorry about my background noise if you hear anything.
That's okay.
Out of my control.
It goes to the territory of working from home. That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's what spurred the decision. It was a very difficult decision. It came from all the presidents of the association. We gathered, we spoke, and that's the solution that we came up with while we strive to prepare, right, for the next week that's coming. And that would be obviously steps to mitigate the spread.
The argument can be, and it has been put forward, that the environment that caters for the spread of the virus using public transportation, some of the bus drivers and conductors can be blamed because they were not adhering to all the COVID-19 protocols.
Everyone can be blamed, including all Grenadians can be blamed, right? But I really don't think it's time for the blame game. I think it's really time to encourage everyone and police each other. Sometimes somebody just needs a reminder. I've spoken to many different persons already, and while speaking to them, they mask running down, and I say, hey, bro, put up your mask, So I think we just need to start creating that culture, right? And really not not come out and try to blame and scold persons, right? I don't think that goes well to improving the protocols and improving everyone, the possibility of everyone following the protocols strictly.
Part of the argument on the news release calling for the suspension of services, you really spoke about the financial issues that bus drivers and owners are facing, including the ability to acquire hand sanitizers and I guess disinfectant and so for buses. How much of a challenge has that been financially for bus owners to adhere to the protocols while trying to stay safe during these COVID-ious times?
Right. So I must know that bus operators have been operating at a loss for quite some time, right? The reality is very few people saw this as a business, and still very few people treat it as a business, right? So we have been operating at significant losses from before COVID. What COVID did was brought it to light, right? So which is why you would have seen, there was sanitation and we got sanitizers and so on. We all acknowledge that, right? But this time around, we have higher cost of living, we have higher gas prices, and we also have the terminal fees that we have to pay and all of these type of things. So it's actually an additional cost now, right, to purchase sanitizer, and we all know the cost of sanitizer, all right? So we have been, trying to find other ways, right? And I must say special thank you to there are quite a few persons in the private sector who have, been working with us to supply us with some sanitizers and other stuff that we are working on.
Just sit back a little bit so I can see the top of your head.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You mentioned paying terminal fees as well, but in a news release that the Ministry of Transport issued yesterday, they pointed out that one of the measures put in place was the suspension of terminal fees for bus drivers, basically speaking about the things that they've done to help ease the financial burden on bus drivers and owners. Have those measures that they pointed out, have you seen the fruit of those measures?
I have
or it's
not
just
seen,
on paper?
No, I have not seen today. I have not seen the release. All right, I have not read through it. But to my current knowledge, right, we are still paying to enter the bus terminal, right? Last year, the fee was waived, right? So I'm not sure if they're speaking about last year, right? I'm really not sure. So I know last year the fee was waived, right? But this year, we have been paying to enter the terminal.
So it was just for a short period of time for the suspension?
Of the terminal fees?
It was just for a short period?
It was from initially, let me just give you a little bit of info on that. In initially March 2020, right, the terminal closed for 3 months, right? When we reopened, right, those were one of the things that were discussed. So from, let's see, I think it was June, we reopened, public transportation, was back on. And that's the period when it began.
For the impression I got was that it was still suspended. Well, thanks for that clarification.
No. We have a few buses that that cannot enter the terminal right now because they can't afford the fee.
Oh.
Yeah, they owe.
Okay. Well, you see. Well, thanks for that clarification. Speaking of buses as well, following the call for the suspension, we still had bus operators who were out and about. One, did that surprise you that there were still operators who saw it fit to be out? And secondly, does that show a kind of instability within the association in terms of getting everybody to cooperate?
Cooperation and Grenadians. Look around. Vaccine, we have to force, right? Busmen pick up on bus stop, you have to force. You have to ticket and you have to do these type of things. I don't think anything different should be seen. I am not surprised, right? The message, if everyone read the message and reads the message, we are strongly advising, right? Our members. Now, if it's your choice. If you want to go out and you want to operate, right? We encourage you, as we have always been, to go with the protocols. Make sure you follow them. But it is our responsibility as the association, right, to look after the safety of our members because they may not see it coming. We are getting the calls. We are getting the reports. Some are even thinking COVID is not real. Still making calls even while at the terminal. There are guys calling some of the guys who are home and saying, "Hey man, come out man, the road running, rail bus not on the road. So in a COVID, come out man." So we are seeing that, and no, it's really not the time for that. Because we have persons, and I must say, I have to extend condolences to one of the family members from Zone 9. We lost a bus operator yesterday. Right. So, look, it's happening. It is happening, and I do hope. And even there's also one driver who stayed off the road and he took the time to go get tested, and guess what? He tested positive. So if we had left that driver on the road, you can understand how many persons, right, in one day work, right, that driver could have possibly infected. Remember what our culture is like. When we see you, Blossom, we might put on a mask. Hey, Blossom, you're going? What about the people in the back? Right? So we have to, and that is what I mean when I say we have to look at the conditions in which we are operating at, and we have to put proper things in place. So that is why, right, we said, let's take a step back and relook this thing, right? And hopefully Wednesday we can resume with better things in place.
My sympathies on the loss of one of your members, and that reminded me of two, one was a video and one was an audio, two pieces of information that was circulating earlier this week from bus operators. One of them said, he had COVID. It was the worst experience he has had. And the other one was reminding people of the need to be cautious and that COVID-19 was real. And you said earlier that a number of your members have been affected with the virus. Do you have an exact number? Conductors as well? Do you know of regular customers that have gotten it from traveling? I shouldn't say from traveling on public transportation, but
these are things that we need to look at. And everyone that is contracting COVID, I really do hope that this question is asked, right? What is your mode of transportation? Do you have a private vehicle or do you use public transportation, right? Because one of our issues is we have persons who are going to be tested and who are coming from testing, right? The businesses that are closing because they are sending you to isolate, but you are taking public transportation to get home. You understand? So we have to look at these things, right? Now, regarding the number, we are trying to get accurate numbers. Right now, I am currently, and I will have proper information available, right, later on. But we are noticing that more drivers are getting COVID than conductors, right? We have some possibilities as to why, right? We are looking at it, and I can share it once we have everything finalized.
And is there
we have well over 30.
Is there a specific area or route that you're seeing the most showing up in?
Grandans, St. David's, they're all over, to be very honest with you. Different figures all over. It's sad to see that we even have executive members who contracted. We have presidents who got sick, right? And I do wish them all speedy recovery, and everyone who has contracted the virus, whether you travel on bus or you're not, I really do hope that everyone recovers. It is not good waking up to see all these RIPs.
Amen. I endorse that statement. One of your, like you just pointed out, one of the points that you highlighted in the news release was no assistance being given to bus operators to get some of the things that they need. And one of our Facebook viewers stated the government is not willing to supplement buses in any way, especially at this time in the pandemic. September 18th is coming up. Another price hike is imminent. Price hike in gas is imminent. And that brings up the argument that I've heard that bus operators always want help. How would you respond to that?
I really didn't want to go there because we want to talk about safety.
Can't avoid it, unfortunately.
We have to acknowledge we are here because of the regulations that have been placed on us. Okay, we are privately owned, but we are stiffly regulated by government. We have made requests, right, to change some of the regulations. Let's get new ones. Let's relook some of the old regulations that have cobweb all over it. Let's dust it off and let's see, because things have changed. The number of buses has changed. The model of buses has changed. There's a terminal. Let's relook the things that are governing public transport, right? And then we can start seeing some positive change in that sector. And that's why, and we are here, the National Association, this is what we are pioneering. We need to have some change, right? Busmen, operators, we have a lot of work to get done, right? But it has to be a partnership, because we are not in it alone. We are regulated. Our hands are tied when it comes to certain areas, right? So we do need to also speak and consult with government on certain issues, right? But we will continue to do what we can and as in the best we can for our members.
Let's take a quick break, Garth, and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. We're speaking with President of the Bus Association, Garth Woodroffe, as we go through these COVIDious times and bus owners, operators try their best to see how they can stay safe during this time. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back inside with more. It's To The Point on Classic and GBN.
CPL T20 is back. Catch all the smashing action from St. Kitts and Nevis, August 26 to September 15
on GBN.
Play.
Feel good facts.
Help prevent cold and flu by washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. That's the time it takes to remove most germs. No soap and water? No worries when you've got alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
As GBN brings you coverage of this year's Hero CPL, there will be some adjustments to our programming lineup. On match days, transitions will be aired from 5:25 p.m. and GBN TV News will be aired from 6 p.m. and repeated following the CPL game. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere with sports coverage.
You're not here to give it all than what you're here for. So get up.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course. Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio. The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Feel good facts.
Avoid the most common causes of spreading the flu. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, dispose of it straight away, and either wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with President of the Grenada Bus Association, Garth Woodroffe. Let's see, there was something, there's a YouTuber that asks, did the bus driver from Zone 9 die from COVID-19? Because there was a report that he didn't and that he was working the bus the day before he died.
Right. That I'm investigating, right? I'm investigating that. I'm hearing COVID. I'm hearing no to COVID, right? So we have to reach out to clarify, which is why I just extended condolences.
Right, got it. There's also a stigma on bus drivers and bus conductors. Do you think that has anything to do with the way you're treated on the regulations that are put on bus operators, especially during these COVIDious times, the way or the negative connotations that go along with being a bus driver, bus owner, bus conductor?
You know, if that's happening, it's sad, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all Grenadians, no matter what you choose to do as your profession. right? And we play a significant role in the economy and contributing to the economy. So it's really sad that, if there is a stigma that there is, I believe there is, right? That's something that's really sad. It has to change, right? And I do hope that it changes soon. The quality of our service has to be looked at. The quality of individual that is allowed to provide the service has to be looked at as well, right? So we can see some change in time to come.
The initial plan is for the suspension of services for the week, which goes to next Wednesday, God will, in the first instance. What takes place after that, when the proposed suspension is lifted? What takes place after that? What would be put in place by the association, by bus owners, collaboration with government going forward to ensure safety of all?
Right. As I said, it's all about safety, and we are working on to have a lot of things in place, right? We do hope and we do want to get back on the road, right? We really do want to get back on the road, but, life over livelihoods, right? So once the conditions and once everything is prepared, then, we will do what we must.
In the interest of safety, any thoughts as to what are some of the things you'll ask owners and drivers, conductors to do when you're back, when outside open, as the local parlance goes?
What was the last question?
What are some of the thoughts you have to give, to suggestions you have for the bus owners when they get back out on the road to ensure the safety? What regulations, maybe even the association itself, wants to advise owners to do?
Well, we don't make regulations, and we could only advise our members from our position. We are working on a document of what we think, what we are going to circulate to our members, right? Or protocols, right? It's sad that public transportation, it's sort of the views from a lot of the members is that public transport has been ignored this time around when we actually have the community spread. Right? That is the view from many of the members. And that brought on, a lot of fear and stuff. But it's our job as the executive to listen and to respond. And we are going to respond, and we are working on getting things in place to make, that safety, to make it a bit more comfortable, both for persons who use in public transportation, right? Because remember, if somebody comes on the bus and they are positive, and if you know you are positive, please don't ride on the bus, right? I do not think that is wise, because you are going to infect. The bus carries 17 plus passengers. Yes, people may wear their mask, but that is to be continued, because we can go forward on how that can affect, persons in a bus, in the environment, with the ventilation aspect to be considered.
Earlier this year, the request was made by the association for an increase in bus fee. I know the discussion started with the Ministry of Transportation. Any progress has been made in that? Has the discussion continued?
No. What we requested, right, was more or less a broad package, right? There has to be some sort of balance established right now. Right? It's not just about bus price, but the other aspects of our overheads, our daily overheads, gas price, concessions, the cost of a bus, the insurance that you pay. What are you insured for? There are buses that are getting into accidents and the insurance didn't even want to cover, right? These type of things, we have to look at the whole industry, right? It needs an overhaul. Right, and that is what we have been hammering for. We have been hammering it for the last year and so. Right, what you would have seen is from last May, right, things were really quiet, and the gas prices and cost of living, sugars, everything been going up. Right, once you go to the supermarket, you will be able to tell everything is going up, and including gas prices. Freight went up around the world, so now we have to pay more for tires, more for our parts, and the cost is passed on to us. But unfortunately, we cannot pass the cost on to our customers, right? Because again, now, Blossom, we are regulated, right? The prices are regulated. So we can't just get up next morning and say, hey, we're charging $2.75 instead of $2.50. It has to be looked at, right? And these are the things that should be looked at as Grenadians, because it's Grenadians that own the buses, it's Grenadians that operate in the buses, right? So before we have to tell conductors, go home, right? Because we cannot afford to pay your salary, right? Let us look to keep the jobs, right? Let us look to make the industry sustainable, right? And establish a proper balance, a proper relationship between, obviously, the association and the regulating body, right? And then we can hopefully we can have a smooth flow of public transport where, passengers are going to be happy. And owners.
The phone has been ringing, so let's go to our viewers and listeners who may have questions, comments. Before we go to that, a matter of fact, let me take in front and ask this question that I'm sure somebody would call with. June, as we go through this spike over the last 2.5-3 weeks, one of the measures members of the public think should be put in place is going back to the idea of reduced amount of passengers in buses. Is that something you think should be considered going forward? Or is just full bus or no bus?
Full bus or no bus, wow. That's something that we have been looking at, right? But this time around, it's not just doing it, but it's how we are going to do it, right? What system are we going to have in place? Because we all know we are already under hardship before this spike, right? Now, there's not much people taking public transportation. There's ads telling you, don't leave your house if you don't necessarily have to. So we have limers again. We have men going by the barber, hairdresser, nail techs. We have them things again. So we have the call centers that moved out, these type of things. So there really isn't much, persons traveling at the moment. Now, to further say, you should carry less, right? In the name of safety, it is an option, right? But we have to look at how long can you do it for, right? We have to look at when you give up, let's say 3-4 passengers, what are you going to be getting in return? How is that loss you are making, how is that going to be compensated? Because that now is just another loss that's going to be stacked upon another loss, right? And that's just going to create more losses, right? And we don't want that.
Okay. Let's go to the landlines now. 435-2041. That's also the WhatsApp number and the landline. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. So far, so good today. And you can also post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Blossom. Morning to your viewers and your listeners. And morning to Mr. Woodroffe. I think he's a breath of fresh air. Let me say just a few things. One, and I'll ask him a couple questions. You see what is happening here now? That should be happening more often so that some of the things that he revealed, which I believe is the truth, people understand so that they won't have negative attitude towards the bus owners and drivers. As you would know, I am one of the persons who have been clamoring for a better regulated situation since COVID, particularly from November when I traveled, November and December, and when I saw the state, and I was shaken on a few occasions. I traveled. Having said that, I agree with him that this is the compliance is a Grenadian problem. We don't comply. Look at the seat belts. Drivers as a whole don't. I mean, we are not a law-keeping people. We have to be forced to keep that. So I agree with him. I also agree with him that this thing is not about blaming. We have to take responsibility, all of us, collectively, individually and collectively, and I agree with him. I want to ask him a few questions. One is, when the committee was formed last year, the national committee that the government said they formed at the onset of COVID, was your association invited to be part of it? That's one. And also, would you say that maybe one of the difficulties that where people might have negative attitude towards you is because the association, because you probably hadn't done enough communication? Because I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's like the president of the Entertainer Association when he was on this very program. Some of the things he revealed, it made people better understand. And would you say also that the problem is, and I'm not trying to get you to get against the government, would you say that one of the problems is that the dialogue, the culture of lack of dialogue with the authority, And the lack of sense of direction is one of the problems. And finally, because I could go on for long, in terms of how do you see us as a people cooperating with each other? Because I know it's a financial difficulty, and I've stressed that over and over. We need to find a common ground where the bus owners and drivers get something and the public get something in return. But there have been lack of leadership. How do you see we going forward? Because this thing is with us, forever, from now on.
Thank you.
One final thing. When I said on your program, Blossom, that there are people in Grenada who still don't believe, intelligent people who still don't believe COVID is not real. And they're saying it's the Chinese, they're saying it's the 5G and all this nonsense, whereas we should have passed that long stage and be working together to see how we could save lives. Thank you very much for indulgence.
Thank you very much. Lots to answer, Garth. Go ahead.
Interesting. Very interesting. Right? Let me try to touch on everything. Regarding the Grenada Transport Commission, right? That was set up last year. We I don't really want to. Anyways, I'll go in. The Grenada Transport Commission was set up. We have met the head of the Transport Commission, right? We are not a part of that decision-making body. So we now have a commission that regulates or that would advise minister and so on transportation. You know, they are a statutory body as well, so they can, tolls and all these types of stuff and things. And, as public transportation, a mecca in Grenada, we are all privately owned. It would be great and wise, right, to have representation. It doesn't have to be a bus operator because they said it was a conflict of interest. So we say, okay, no problem. Let's send someone else, right? Let's try to get to the middle ground. But we keep meeting this wall, right? And it's time that this wall and whatever grievances that I came and met as the National Bus Association president, let's throw that off and let's start clean and let's start building something different. So we are not on that committee. Right? We still would like to consult. We have not had any, let's say, they were supposed to have a stakeholder, they mentioned a stakeholder committee, right? Which would be bus operators, bikers, private car owners. Of course, our stake is our livelihood. So that is, we are still different. Bikemen don't use bike to make their livelihood. So we are still considered different. But stakeholder committee, and that has not been set up as yet, right? We are in September 2021, right? We have not had that set up yet. Communication from the association's perspective, yes, there are issues. Yes, it's very hard to communicate the message sometimes because a lot of our members are, we say old school, right? Not familiar with the WhatsApp, the technology. So there's a lot of work where, we have to get and keep working on our communication strategies, right? So there is a communication issue. I own it. We at the NBA, the National Association, we own it, right? And we are working on it, right? Lack of dialogue. Currently, there is a lack of dialogue, right? There is a lack of dialogue. Since this spike, we had a scheduled meeting, right? Where we would have spoken, where we would have had to speak with, public transport, the police, and all the other stakeholders, health, and so on, right? And that meeting never happened, right? We gave briefly via phone call, hey, we want to look at this, we want to look at that, we want to look at this, we want to look at that. The meeting has not happened as yet. So I hope the Grenadian public can understand the walls that we are meeting. Now I know things are busy, but public transport is important because we are contributing to the spread of COVID-19. And especially when you have unknown persons who are asymptomatic or so on. And yes, you're going to say the mask and so on and sanitize, but we're running out of sanitizer. So when you come on, you touch a surface in a bus. Buses are not currently being sanitized after every trip. It's not happening. And we need that to start happening, right? Now, cooperation, as the caller mentioned. We need better cooperation from everyone involved. We do need better cooperation from everyone involved. I'll make this public plea, and I will say thanks to many persons in the private sector that has been, reaching out and trying to see how we can get things back up and running, because this affects everybody. And, bus operators, those that are staying off the road, they are making a hard sacrifice, right? So we need to have cooperation from everyone involved, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Transport, and so on, so we can come up with a system that could work. I mean, we have lots of ideas. The executive of the association, I must say we are a bit more innovative. We're not, we're young, vibrant, and we have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of things that we would like to get done, but we are still limited in certain aspects as we continue to grow this association. All right, so I hope that answers everything the caller mentioned.
All right, let me see if I can get a WhatsApp question. Somebody on WhatsApp asks, is it true that the majority of buses are owned by police officers?
God, man. Sorry. I am sorry. That slipped out. Grenadians, I love them. I love us. Be nice. Yes, there are police officers that own buses. There are police officers that are a part of the association as well, right? That is, I don't have a number, right? One body, one unit, we promoting togetherness, whether you are police or whatever. So we are in the association. There are officers in the association. Yeah, it's sad sometimes to see that officers who expect others to uphold the law will come into the association but don't follow the instructions of the association. You see where the problem is? In Grenada, and this is just Grenadians in general, right? When it's what sometimes I always say, what we like for ourselves, we don't like for others.
Let me see. There's another WhatsApp question. Earlier you mentioned there were officers, bus operators getting tested. Somebody on WhatsApp asks, why are some of the bus drivers with symptoms refusing to get tested? I am aware of quite a number of drivers bluntly refusing to get tested or wear masks. We have that taking place as well. I see you nodding.
Yes. Now we're starting to understand why the National Association made the call, withdraw, right? Men, I have to deal with men. We don't like to go by doctor. We feel we could overcome everything. Fellas, this is real. Do not play with it. COVID has no friend. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you have, right? None of that matters when COVID hits you. Get yourself tested. To the operators, right? Get yourself tested. Don't say I'm coming down with a flu day. Any flu symptoms you have, be on the safe side. If you're not doing it for you, do it for your loved ones, your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, right? Because you can possibly infect them. What if something happens to them and you know that you gave them the COVID, right? Get yourself tested. Know your status, right? Please, bus operators and other Grenadians. And we also need to make testing. I know it's hard on the Ministry of Health, but we need to also, get some more effective ways of doing the whole testing process, right? I'm always available to help, and I'll just make this. I really would like to have a little conversation with Minister Steele. I haven't really, met him as yet, but I think, we should speak, right? Especially as we are working on establishing some health protocols within the association.
No calls, so let me go back to WhatsApp. Somebody on WhatsApp says, in New York, the MTA set up sanitization stations for both train and buses from the starting point and the last stop, sanitizing the interior of the transport from every trip made, sometimes a sign to show they're following protocols. The question, do you have that operation at hand? If not, would you seek to have that meeting with the finance minister seeking a stimulus package maybe in the pipeline? Seeing that busmen and conductors are being affected now, what number of passengers you will be willing to carry per seat with the proper protocols in place?
That's a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, so a conversation with the finance minister for a stimulus package, what number of passengers you would like to see carried per seat with the proper protocol in place?
Right. Conversation regarding stimulus package. We need to understand. I have learned, right? We need to know what those terms and conditions will be, right? We are already drowning. We don't want to go and tie a block onto our feet to make us go down faster. Meaning, if we have to further take a loan to help us, then we have to repay the loan eventually, right? So that's going to be an additional expense. And we do not know how long COVID-19 is going to be around for. We see this thing is mutating, variants upon variants and all of that. We do not know, right? So we will, it's wise to have a discussion with the Minister of Finance to see, what we can arrange, as I said earlier, with regards to the seating capacity, right? We are open to it. I will say we are open to it. Quite a few members are open to it, but we are running at a serious loss. So there has to be something to strike that balance. All right? And I'll stop there.
Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning to Blossom, and good morning to you, Garth. Blossom and Garth, both of you know how passionate I am about this whole matter of public transport in the pandemic. And, I always say that one of the indicators of whether or not a country is heading to becoming a failed state is the way they address important developmental matters. Public transport is so important for the development of our country. Many folks can't get to school. They can't get to work. They can't access health care. Productivity and production almost ceases if there was no public transport. In most countries, it's provided by government, or they subsidize it heavily. Here we have a government that sits back to a great extent and look at private people trying to provide this public service and not seemingly getting involved as they ought to be. I've heard of this commission. What is the commission doing in the wake of COVID? These people seem totally impotent about anything to do with the COVID in this public transport in this pandemic. Why? For some reason, they just don't want to touch it. And as I said before, it is what is going to bring us down, as you just mentioned. People are going for testing using public transport. And even when they know that the status, they have to use it to go back home. Are we seeing how serious this thing is, and why are the powers that be not embracing it that way? One thing about operating a bus service, that essential service, people don't understand that bus drivers have both fixed costs and variable costs. When a bus driver decides to stay home, his loan doesn't stop being due. His insurance doesn't stop being due. When he starts running, there are other costs that come up, like the fuel and the other things. His family doesn't stop needing food. So when a bus driver decides to take his bus off the road, it's a sacrifice, and it's a message that's being sent. In many cases, it's a call for help. But people don't seem to be seeing it that way. The authorities don't seem to be seeing it that way. They just sit back, and they just allow this thing to crash and burn.
Okay.
We're going to all be part of that burning if we don't address it soon, Blossom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Garth?
I could comment there?
Of course.
Right? Serious points. You look around the Caribbean, public transportation is subsidized heavily. I think, government is also wise. They ain't going to try to get into it because they know it's failing. And the reality is, the loss is being carried on the backs of bus operators, fellow Grenadians, making a sacrifice just to own a bus. And even under these conditions now, tomorrow, well, from 5 o'clock this evening, we inside, right? So we can't go to the garage to maintain the bus and check on these things, right? These type of we had to come back on Monday. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to operate, right? If we do have to go to the garage and do our servicing and checks, we have to sacrifice a day to do that, right? So the importance is there. I don't think I have reiterated the importance of public transport, and the caller, and I want to emphasize that what we are doing now, it's a cry for help. It is a cry for help, and I do not think that this is the time to play games with people's life and livelihoods at the same time. It is not. No, you mentioned the release, Blossom. So I was trying to go, get a piece on it, right? I did not finish reading it, but I am seeing here that the Ministry of Transportation is saying thank you to the operators that more or less did not take the advice to choose life. So you are aiding division, but you are slamming persons who were encouraging jab must play. Come on, man. Come on. We have to stop it. That we have to stop. No, this has to stop. You are commending. So you are aiding the division. You are aiding in more or less, I wouldn't say we did not give an order. We gave genuine advice, right, to suspend. And we wanted dialogue. We have reached out. We were the ones who reached out to government to start dialoguing on how are we going to deal with this COVID situation that is the community spread, right? It is in the community. It is different. It is new to what we have done before. So we need to speak, right? So let us put our feelings aside, right? And put the Canadian people first, right? And we can vex with each other after. That's all I would say.
It's almost time for us to end the program, but let me ask this question. Is the association in a position to assist its members who have been affected by COVID-19, whether it's through the provision of food stuff, those who may have to stay off the road after the suspension, of course, maybe a little financial assistance? Any assistance can be given to your members, specifically those affected by the virus or who had the virus?
And we have to, and this is something that we mentioned, right? Now, we are already cash strapped, right? Things are already slow. You are asking more or less a self-employed person. Now we are to isolate. Yes, the association, right, we are not in a full standing position, right? But I can simply say we have been doing what we can for the members who are isolated and the members who have been sick, right? We have been trying to aid with, there's no cure for COVID yet, right? We have done consultations on the vaccine and given them the option and explaining all the questions. There's a lot of, misinformation about vaccines. We had consultations with them on that. We brought in a doctor. We had numerous conversations. And we are continuing to have and provide that type of support for persons who are infected, right? So as a bus operator, if you do not know this, I am communicating it to you now. If you have tested positive, please let us know. Send a message to the association phone 4107011, right? And we will see how best we can assist you. Dealing with this virus and learning that you're infected, right? It sometimes when you know, it brings on all the symptoms. It mentally affects you as well. So there's mental support that is also needed, right, for everyone in general, right? And I mean that's where we are at right now in providing mental support, medications and vitamins and so on, keeping your immune system up and all these different type of things that is going around. That is where we are right now. And we will like to know just for our own numbers' sake, and so we can also see how best we can assist you. All right?
The suspension in the first instance goes until next Wednesday, God willing. What's taking place? What's next for the association and its members? What suggestions may you have for your members going forward?
Members going forward, please, even if you're operating today, right? Follow the protocols. Don't even touch your face. All right? Follow the protocols. Do not take any chance whatsoever, right? I've been reading up on even doubling your mask, right? I would say specifically to the drivers, double your mask. All right? I'll say double your mask, right? Double the protection, right? Especially when the bus is standing still. We do what we soak a lot, which is, waiting on a bus stop, hoping you go see 2 persons coming out, right? And while you are there, right, put your AC on, to blow from the air, not your AC, now your blower, not to circulate air inside, but to take air in from the outside and send it through the bus, right? So we are working on these type of protocols to send out to our members, right? Little do's and don'ts, just our recommendations. And these are the discussions that we would like to have, right? From the top come down. So it can be sort of standard, right? Because as you say, there are some people that listen to the association and in reality, there are some that listen to government. So let us send one straight message out, right? Because this is about saving lives. Nothing else. Saving lives. That is what it is about. Mitigating the spread of COVID, in which we believe that we are contributing to right now. And it's not fair to anyone to come onto our bus to get to their destination only to catch COVID after or during that process.
Garth, I'd like to thank you very much for being our guest this morning. As one of our callers said, a breath of fresh air. You're well spoken and happy that you can come on to clear the air on some issues and share the association's thoughts and plans going forward as we get a public service from private businessmen and women. Appreciate you very much. Continue to stay safe and all the best to the members of the association. Condolences once again to the fallen Zone 9 driver.
Yeah, his name is Breadfruit. Breadfruit.
I like that, Breadfruit.
His name is Mr. Isaac Nichols. So to his family, from me as the president of the association, I would like to extend my condolences and reminder again, please wear your mask, protect yourselves, protect your families. Please, all Grenadians need to do this now. All right, and thank you for having me, Blossom.
Appreciate you. Anytime you want to come back, just give your girl a holler. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
You too, thanks.
President of the Grenada National Bus Association, Garth Woodroffe. We thank him very much for being our guest this morning. Bus drivers, passengers, not just bus drivers and owners and conductors, passengers as well. We all need to do what we need to stay safe. Like the saying goes, mind your own business. Your masks, wash your hands using soap and water. If they're not available, hand sanitizers would do the trick. Please continue to stay safe. That's the end of the program for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll still be around, as I would be around for Mid-Morning Buzz. But in the meantime, continue to do what you need to do to stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, those of you leaving us. And I'll be back in a short while. Have a good one.